Pakistan is hurt. Pakistan says it is hurt by the accusations of US President Donald Trump. Pakistan also says it is fighting terrorism. Pakistan says it has made sacrifices, money and men in its fight against terrorism. Pakistan says it's so hurt it has suspended intelligence sharing with the US. Let's now tell you what Pakistan is doing. Pakistan is gaslighting the world. It's a country that's playing mind games with the world. Pakistan's little game is not taking it anywhere, but it is definitely taking lives on both sides of the border. With India, in fact, only this morning, Indian Army inflicted heavy casualties on the Pakistan Army. 7 Pakistani soldiers were killed. On record, Pakistan has admitted 4 are dead. In the Uri sector of Jammu and Kashmir, 5 members of the Jaish-e-Mohammed suicide squad were confronted by the Indian Army late last night. They're all dead now. Today is India's 70th Army Day, and the Indian Army has sent out a strong message. The choice is Pakistan's to make. Here's a report.
There are 4 AK-47s, 3 UBGLs and 38 UBGL grenades, about 23 hand grenades, 9 IEDs and many such warlike items were recovered from these terrorists.
War it is. What else explains the infiltration bid of Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists as India prepared to celebrate Army Day? Terrorist Masood Azhar's men were travelling in a boat in the Uri sector when Indian Army and Jammu and Kashmir police confronted them.
This is the first infiltration bid of 2018 which has been successfully eliminated. The Indian Army continues with its resolve to keep a strict vigil along the line of control and foil such nefarious designs of Pakistan in the future too.
Every January 15th, India celebrates its Army Day. It was on this day in 1949 that Field Marshal Cariappa took over as the first Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army, 17 months after India gained independence. And it also happens to be a day Pakistan hates, as Indian Army constantly foils its plans to hurt India.
नियंत्रण रेखा पर पाकिस्तानी सेना संघर्ष विराम का उल्लंघन जारी रखते हुए आतंकवादियों की घुसपैठ में सहायता करने के प्रयास करती रहती है। हम विरोधियों को सबक सिखाने के लिए अपनी ताकत का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। पाकिस्तान की किसी भी उकसाने वाली कार्रवाई का हम हमेशा मुंह तोड़ जवाब देते रहेंगे। अगर हमें मजबूर किया गया तब हम अपनी सैन्य कार्रवाई के दर्जे को बढ़ाकर अन्य कार्रवाई भी कर सकते हैं।
The Indian Army Chief General Bikram Singh has warned Pakistan to face action if infiltration in Kashmir continues.
नियंत्रण रेखा पर पाकिस्तानी सेना संघर्ष विराम का उल्लंघन जारी रखते हुए आतंकवादियों की घुसपैठ में सहायता करने के प्रयास करती रहती है। हम विरोधियों को सबक सिखाने के लिए अपनी ताकत का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं।
And the general words meant Pakistan paid the price early morning Monday. Indian forces killed 7 Pakistani soldiers, avenging the death of a soldier on Saturday. Pakistan has even acknowledged the death of 4 of its soldiers. The message is loud and clear for Pakistan: behave or pay the price. Bureau Report, Wion.
The message is certainly loud and clear. Let's take a closer look at the implications and the ramifications of that message that has been clearly sent out by India on its 70th Army Day. Joining us this evening on this special broadcast is General Bikram Singh, former Chief of the Indian Army from New Delhi. Also joining us is former Indian Ambassador to Israel, Arun Singh. Good evening, both of you. Appreciate your speaking with us here on WION on this special broadcast. Coming to you first, General Bikram Singh, your reading of the first infiltration bid of this year coinciding with India's Army Day. Is that a mere coincidence, or is there a larger message being sent out?
Well, we cannot rule out the possibility of this infiltration having been undertaken with the aim of creating some kind of mayhem in the area of Uri, like it was done on the 18th of September 2016, which led to the surgical strikes. It's quite possible that they came in also from the point of view of the visit of the Prime Minister of Israel, who is in India today, to send across a message. You would have seen in the past as well, Pakistan has been indulging in this kind of monkey tricks whenever any foreign senior dignitaries have visited our country. So therefore, the possibility of both the Prime Minister of Israel being here and also coinciding with the Army Day cannot be ruled out. But along with this, you see, Molly, when you see the kind of wherewithal they were carrying, which you brought out, in the beginning of this particular, session, they were carrying IDs with them. Now, quite possible that these IDs would have been brought in also from the point of view of creating mayhem closer to the Republic Day. Because just about 10 days from now, we have our Republic Day, 26th of January, and quite possible they would have done it. But then when you see the way they were coming in at 30 hours, that is about 10 past, half an hour past 10, last night, about 11 o'clock, they were intercepted about 100 meters inside our area, very close to the line of control. In other words, they could have well come into the areas closer to the army installations which are located on the periphery and around Uri to take them on. That is quite a possibility again. But then, as I said earlier, given the wherewithal they were carrying, the possibility of an action being taken to coincide with the Army Day, the visit of the Prime Minister, as also something to be done later cannot be ruled out.
And I do also want to take a cue from that aspect that you're mentioning and take that across to Ambassador Singh. Ambassador, as General Bikram Singh just outlined, this border flare-up, escalation in tensions and an infiltration bid coinciding with the visit of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What's your reading?
So I think there's another dimension that we should also keep in mind. It was on 1st January this year that the US President had tweeted that US needed to take some action against Pakistan because it was continuing to support terrorist groups, even as it was getting assistance from the United States. And soon after that, US has suspended assistance to Pakistan. So Pakistan realizes that it is coming under pressure internationally, including from an important partner, the United States, which can create difficulties for it. And after that, there has been some consternation in Pakistan. The Pakistan Defense Minister said that they have suspended intelligence and military cooperation with the US. US in turn has said that they have not been formally told that such cooperation has been suspended. So there is a lot of posturing going on. So given this kind of pressure that Pakistan is under, one can suspect that on their western border related to Afghanistan, they may tighten some pressure on militant groups and terrorists to prevent them for a while from taking action against US forces so as to alleviate that pressure they are facing and so as to get the US in a sense off their back and to get some process moving with the United States. And in the past also we have found that whenever that happens, then they try and activate things on the eastern border. So we cannot rule out that partly as a result of the US pressure that they are facing on the western border, they're trying to sponsor, generate some activity on the eastern border to take that pressure off and try and show to the militants and terrorist groups that even as they are putting some pressure on them on one side, on the other side they continue to engage them and they're not, in a sense, coming out wholly against them. So that's one dimension. And then, of course, there is the other dimension related to a major visit. Pakistan, in the past, normally we have found that such infiltration has been encouraged at the time when there is a major visit from the United States, because they want to get the attention of the US leadership, sometimes try and get the US leadership to play some role in India-Pakistan issues. And that's why sponsored terrorists sponsor some major incident when there's a big visit happening from the United States. And that has happened in the past. But now over time, they have found that that strategy doesn't work. US leaders and others are not really interested in getting involved in any way in India-Pakistan issues, and they believe that India and Pakistan must resolve their differences themselves. And of course, terrorism is not acceptable at all. So, but that having been said, Pakistan does look at Israel and the India-Israel relationship with a certain amount of concern because they know that there is strong intelligence cooperation between India and Israel, there is strong counter-terrorism cooperation between India and Israel, and there is a strong defense partnership between India and Israel. Therefore, one can't rule out that they may have wanted to create some embarrassment during the visit of the Israeli Prime Minister.
Okay.
So there are many dimensions to this. I think the bottom line remains that Pakistan remains interested and involved in sponsoring terrorism against India. Whatever be the reasons, whatever be the motivations, whatever be the timing, this is the bottom line and this is the basis on which we have to assess and act.
General Bikram Singh, I would also want you to shed further light on the strategic partnership that India and Israel share. But before we get into that, the strong message that the Army Chief has sent out this morning on the occasion of India's 70th Army Day, and I'm quoting from that statement, ceasefire violations by Pakistan happen frequently, to which we respond effectively. We will take even stronger steps against our enemies if we are compelled to do so. If they provoke us further, we will conduct much stronger investigations. What are these stronger measures that we are referring to, General Bikram Singh, according to you?
Yeah, just to firstly substantiate what the chief has said, that, our troops are responding with equal amount of, ferocity, intensity, with force, is the fact that, when you see the figures that were given out a couple of days back by the Army headquarters, you would have seen that the kill ratios, the people, our soldiers killed vis-a-vis Pakistanis killed, is 1:5. We had our 28 soldiers of ours killed in 2017. Whereas 138 Pakistani soldiers have been killed. And same is the case, almost double the number of non-fatal casualties on Pakistan. Therefore, our troops have been firing for effect, and our troops mean business. And you would have seen that post 18 September 2016, the strike, terrorist strike at Uri, which took place. After that, the surgical strike, which with the Indian Army took on thereafter, 10 days after that, has given a very clear message. And what the chief has brought out, it's very important in war fighting to deter the adversary in doing what he is doing. So therefore, when you deter, as part of deterrence, there are the declaratory facets of your deterrence, and there is ambiguity which has got to be created as part of your deterrence. So you would have seen that while as far as the declaratory policy is concerned by the government, it's very clear that we're not going to take on this nonsense anymore, and we're going to strike. And therefore, we've been striking. And that's what the chief said. At what level, what magnitude, where is something which the chief has left vague as part of ambiguity and as part of deterrence. So you will see that in times to come, if Pakistan does anything like that, what it did in Uri, it is heading for trouble. And let me tell you also this, that given the will of the present government, I won't be surprised if the spectrum of conflict is further widened. We should not be just looking at the sub-conventional arena where, the operations are only in the line of control arena. They could well spill over into the other areas. And for that matter, even from the point of view of depth, we could perhaps take on certain targets which are of strategic nature. So it all depends on the political will, and also depends how Pakistan behaves. But I'm certain that the message which has gone post-Uri, our surgical strikes, I somehow don't agree with what Ambassador has brought out from the point of view of, the Americans face it coming in. My knowledge, my experience with the Pakistani military, I commanded a brigade of Pakistanis in Congo. Let me tell you, they are very smart. Given the fact that, Trump has already told them and cut off the finances which were being given to them. On the contrary, I feel, knowing General Bajwa and the Pakistani army leadership, they will try and be far more cautious than trying to do something against India at this point of time. And from that point of view, when you see the three options which I gave out earlier, perhaps 26th January stands out loud and clear, because it would have given enough time to these people to infiltrate, select the target and take on any objective, perhaps either in Uri area or for that matter closer to Srinagar.
Interesting. I will allow Ambassador Arun Singh to also respond to that. But before that, General Singh, another aspect that stands out among others in that address that was given out by the Army Chief this morning on the occasion of the Army's of India's 70th Army Day is that social media is being used against us. We have to be careful in its use. Your reading of that statement and the multiple ramifications that comes with.
Yes, he was referring to what's going on in Jammu and Kashmir, and for that matter, even the Pakistani, military establishment, they are using this in a very big way. And let me tell you, the radicalization that has taken place in the valley is essentially on account of social media. And I think I'm glad we've woken up finally. It was writing on the wall, it's going to happen. It was happening. We knew about it, but I would say we were slightly lackadaisical with regard to the measures being instituted. But I'm glad we have taken note of it. Measures are being instituted, not only within the valley, but also to make sure we have the requisite firewalls created to ensure that Pakistan cannot further indoctrinate our people in the valley and increase its constituency in the valley and other parts of our country.
Ambassador?
So I think the General has made very, very valid points, including aspects related to how Pakistan responds to US pressure. Although I must say, in my own experience, I have found that there does tend to be a linkage. And very often, when they come under pressure to take action against certain kind of terrorist groups, and then they are doing that, they relieve the pressure on other terrorist groups, because their strategy has been not to take action against all the terrorist groups at the same time, because they believe that that could generate a blowback on them. So this kind of selective targeting at times, and of course targeting the terrorist groups that attack Pakistan, because in the process of sponsoring terrorism, giving safe haven to terrorism, they have also enabled giving space to terrorist groups that have been attacking Pakistan. And they have certainly taken action against those groups. And against other groups, they have taken action selectively, depending on where the pressure is. You would have found that at times they've taken action, for example, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jamaat-ud-Dawa. They banned them, and after a while they continue functioning. So it's something they do for optics, both internationally and in terms of a message to their own domestic constituencies. So that link is there, and that's what I've observed in the past.
General Singh wants to come in here, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with the ambassador what he said on this. My only point is that while there are 95 proscribed militant groups in Pakistan, and I'm talking about just Punjab province of Pakistan, and this is the figure quoted by their Minister of Interior in 2015. Now, with this kind of terrorist groups which are over there, they have been taking action against the fringe groups. But two Punjabi tanzeems which have been bleeding India, Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, they've been very, very cautious. They dare not do it. They remember the Lal Masjid episode. I remember I was in Congo and I saw the plight of the Pakistani officers who had lost their kith and kin, and their cantonments had been threatened and attacked. So I do not think that with their hands at the moment full on the western border with Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Pakistani army would try and do anything against Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba. Yes, other groups, they would carry on, but these two groups, they've got to be very mindful. They are their strategic assets. They cannot afford to antagonize. And for that matter, let me tell you what's been going on, with regard to the Supremo of Lashkar-e-Toiba. It's all a facade. It's window dressing. It's making a fool of the world. But I think the world has understood.
Why do you say that, sir?
They are not very serious about it. Look, the point is, on 5 earlier occasions, the Supremo of Lashkar-e-Toiba was put behind the bars, house arrest. If they mean business, he should have been behind the bars and not under house arrest. The 6th time they have done it. And the court has released him thereafter again. Look, you must understand that, in a place like Pakistan, you'll find that the weapon, the unaccountable weapon of a terrorist has far more weightage vis-a-vis an accountable weapon of the security forces, because they do not know what time it will fire, where it will fire, and who's going to fire and who's going to be killed. Whereas a weapon of the military cannot take on, at random anybody. Every bullet is accounted for. So therefore, there is more fear of the retribution by Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed in case they do something against them. And there is no question of they're doing anything against the Supremo of Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. They will take them on. So therefore, it's all a facade, and I'm certain about it. I wrote a piece on this in the Week magazine a long time back, and I'm certain that they will continue with this kind of facade, this kind of window dressing to fool the world.
And that cosmetic measure, the window dressing and the kind of facade that we've been talking about, Ambassador Arun Singh, comes to the forefront every time we talk about the ceasefire violations that continue, the friction that continues between India and Pakistan, and has attained a feverish pitch over the last few months. These cosmetic measures are for all to see, but Pakistan understandably does not understand the language of proof and evidence, and which is why, indeed, the chief of the Lashkar-e-Toiba was released, and the court had cited lack of evidence against him.
And also recently, for example, Pakistan was compelled to take some action against the Lashkar-e-Toiba, and they passed an order saying that donations should not be given to the Lashkar-e-Toiba because they are worried that in the framework of the Financial Action Task Force, an international organization, action may be taken against the Pakistani financial and banking system because of money laundering related to terrorism. So because of that, they've taken this cosmetic measure. But as Wion itself has reported earlier, when your correspondent went to the ground near the Lashkar-e-Toiba headquarters in Punjab, and they found that normal activity was continuing, including fund collection. So it is clear, and as the General himself mentioned, that Pakistani authorities are very reluctant to take effective action against the Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jamaat-ud-Dawa and others groups that they have sponsored. But they do try and take cosmetic action from time to time whenever they come under international pressure. And this we have seen in repeated cycles, especially since 2001. And it is again the same cycle that we are witnessing again this time. But I think gradually the world is recognizing more and more the dangers involved in Pakistan's continued involvement with terrorism. And they're not able to take measures beyond a point because they still find some advantage for themselves in continuing the engagement with Pakistan. Because Pakistan provides intelligence cooperation related to terrorism to some of the countries with which it partners, like to China and others. US, for example, finds Pakistan useful in the context of supplies to its troops in Afghanistan. And several other European countries have also received intelligence-related cooperation from Pakistan. So because of these reasons, looking at their own narrow national perspectives and interests, countries are reluctant to take the fully required action to get to Pakistan to stop its involvement with terrorism. So that's a fact of life and international context that we have to work with, even as we work to protect our own interests.
And unfortunately, all of those measures do fall under the umbrella of cosmetic actions. General Singh, what is the message largely that Pakistan is trying to give out through those cosmetic measures, which of course has caused it international embarrassment? We have seen how the United States has time and again criticized the United States also by withdrawing military aid to the country. But it seems that Pakistan does not seem to understand that tough language.
Molly, one point has to be understood that, these two tanzeems, these two terrorist groups, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba, do not listen to the military establishment, as we, feel that perhaps the Indian Army would be able to dictate terms to some of our, groups. But we don't have none of these, in fact. We had some, surrendered militants we used at some point of time against in the LWE area. We also used them in J&K. But that's not the case with us. But these two tanzeems do not listen either to the military or to the government. So therefore, you cannot rule out the possibility that, because what is in favor, what goes in favor of Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba is this hostility between India and Pakistan. That is going to sustain these two tanzeems to carry on. It gives them, the authority to further, leverage what they are doing in Pakistan in terms of collecting funds and other resources to bleed India. So, and plus their recruitment. So from that point of view, I feel that it's quite possible that this may have been done without the permission at the highest level. But then, yes, let's be very clear. In the area where the infiltration has taken place, command post and Chakoti on the other side, it's a very close relationship between the two posts. They're very closely located. And there's no way that they would have come in without the assistance of the Rangers or the Pakistani military. So at the lower level, I personally feel there is assistance that is going on, even if at the higher level, Pakistan Army wants to stop it. Because the kind of situation that has been created, I think it's reached a point of no return. It's going to take time. It's going to actually require sustained efforts by Pakistani Army, military. The international community will have to get in, because it's high time Pakistan realizes that they've created a misery for themselves. And if they do not wake up now, they're going to bleed and continue to bleed in times to come.
Absolutely, and that's a strong message that the army chief today has also given out to Pakistan. Ambassador, yes, go ahead.
No, if I could just come in at this stage.
Sure.
So I disagree or differ slightly with General Bikram Singh, where I feel that the Pakistani army and its intelligence agencies are involved fully with the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. And beyond that, in any case, a state has a responsibility to prevent its territory from being used by terrorist organizations and prevent its territory from being used by terrorist organizations for action against other countries. So under the doctrine of state responsibility, the Pakistani state and its armed forces cannot say that they are not responsible for their activities which is happening from their soil. They have an obligation to prevent that. But in any case, going beyond that, my assessment is that they are actively involved in sponsoring and encouraging, funding and enabling all those groups. So I think this is a dimension we must keep in mind, including the doctrine of state responsibility, because a state has to be responsible for the activities that are happening within its territory that is it controls, and especially if action happens from there against neighboring countries. So that aspect we should not ignore.
Sure, General Singh, but isn't that very responsibility being shirked by Pakistan, to say the least, by its deniability, which remains a constant?
No, they would continue to be doing that. But you see, I just have a point with regard to the state that has been mentioned. You know, when you talk of state as per the Westphalian model, well, state is not a state as far as Pakistan is concerned. It's the Pakistani military that's calling the shots. It's a controlled democracy. You've seen what happened to Nawaz Sharif. They made a specimen out of him within no time. So let's be very clear. In Pakistan, things are very different. It's not a very classic democracy. It's not a democracy at all. It's totally controlled by the army. And therefore, well, I agree with the ambassador when he says, yes, there is a state sponsorship. The military is supporting. That's going on. But yes, let's be very clear. As I said earlier, as part of the monkey tricks which Pakistan has been resorting to, they would continue, despite knowing the fact that the world knows about it, the international community knows about it, what they've been doing. They will continue to resort to this stance of deniability. They will continue to do that. And along with this, of course, you will find that, a bit of nuclear saber rattling. You heard the minister talking about it. That would carry on to dissuade the Indian army from taking on some action at the higher level. But I think that, again, we should just, brush aside and carry on with what we want to do, because that's just a facade again, if you ask me frankly.
Ambassador, I'm going to allow you to come in here. We're just about wrapping this up, completely running out of time.
No, I think so. I think where the General mentioned about the state responsibility, that is an important factor, because if you take, for example, 26/11, the attack in Mumbai, the Lashkar-e-Toiba was involved there, and all information that has come out subsequently has shown that the ISI and its elements were involved in enabling that action to take place. So I think this linkage between the Pakistan army, the agencies, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, which is something we should keep firmly in our mind.
All right, Ambassador Arun Singh and General Bikram Singh, appreciate very much your joining us on this special broadcast this evening here on World is One New. Well, the message certainly has been given out by the Army Chief this morning during that address or at India's 70th Army Day. During that crucial address, the Army Chief lashing out at Pakistan on multiple occasions through multiple statements. The message is out there for Pakistan if it chooses to read the same. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Wion Fineprint.